The pattern I'm working through is New Look pattern N6720. So what you will need to choose your sewing pattern size is your body measurements and also the chart on the back of the envelope, which you will be comparing your measurements with. I have traced out my starting sewing pattern size, and I've copied out all of the markings, the bust point, the waist, the center front, as it says on the sewing pattern. So whenever you're doing alterations, always draw in your seam allowance, because your alterations will be done up to or on this line. If you are outside of the B cup range, you will be tracing off your pattern pieces in the starting size of your high bust measurement that correlates with the bust measurement on the envelope. If you're doing a full bust adjustment and the difference between your high bust and your full bust is 4 inches, you then need to take away the 2-inch B cup from the difference in your high and full bust. You take away the B cup size, which is 2 inches. That leaves you with 2 inches that you need to add in across the front of your sewing pattern. If you need to do a full bust adjustment, you need to work out how much to add across your front piece. Your sewing pattern cup size is different to your bra cup size. As mentioned, most sewing patterns are drafted for a B cup size. So the difference between the high bust and the full bust is 2 inches. Your sewing pattern A cup, the difference would be 1 inch. Your sewing pattern C cup would be 3 inches, and so on. I'm going to now demonstrate how to do a full bust adjustment, and I'll do it just as an example for a D cup in a sewing pattern. That means the difference between the high bust and the full bust is 4 inches. So we now need to get the sewing pattern, which is a B cup, to fit a D cup. We therefore need to take the B cup away from the D. So that means take 2 inches from 4 inches, and that leaves us with an extra 2 inches that we need to add across the front piece. So we already have 2 inches in the pattern. We just need another 2. So this example will be for a full bust adjustment. I have once again marked in the bust point on the actual body. I want to draw a line from the new bust point to the waist, which is parallel to the grain line. You're then going to draw your line from the new bust point to the sewing line, a third of the way up on your armhole. Remember, you're going to the sewing line, not to the outside edge. The next thing to do will be to draw a line from the center of your dart to your new bust point. So we're now going to cut from the waist to the new bust point to the sewing line on the armhole. I'm now going to cut in through the seam allowance. So can you see, this is where we're going to be adding in to the bust. I'm going to be cutting from the outside edge to the new bust point, but leaving a hinge. Remember, we are doing this example for a D sewing cup, which means we need to add 2 inches into our pattern. We've already got the 2 inches for a B cup. We're adding an extra 2, which will give us a D cup sewing size. We're only working on the front piece. We need to add 2 inches across the front only. So that means I'm going to add 1 inch here, and when I cut the other side, it will have the 1 inch as well. Because I need to open this out, I'm going to add some paper underneath. I'm also going to draw a line straight across the center piece, because as you can see, if I add into here, the side grows longer. So I'm going to draw a line anywhere below the bust point is fine. This one is perpendicular or a right angle to your grain line, and I'm now adding some paper underneath. I'm not taping down below the line that I've drawn because I'm going to be cutting that off. What we have now is the pattern with a few hinges. I want to add 2 inches across the front. That means I'm adding 1 inch to the right side, which is what I'm working on. So measure from the line that you've drawn, the one that is parallel to your grain line, and draw a line, straight line, 1 inch from there. Okay, so this is how much we are adding into the pattern. We're now going to bring the side panel across until it meets that line, but get it to a point where the pattern is flat. So you can see that your bust dart has actually got bigger and there's more fabric that is added over the bust area, which is there. You're going to tape that down. So the armhole seam has not changed in measurement. That means that will still fit your sleeve. Your actual side seam has not grown either. The only thing that has grown is the actual dart. So one note on the bust point, remember that this here is your new bust point. That means that your dart needs to be facing this area, not this one, which has moved down. These are our original dart positions at the side seam. I'm going to find halfway between those and draw a line to the new bust point. Okay, so that is the center of your new dart. The dart does not finish at the bust point. It finishes anywhere between 3 to 5 centimeters from the new bust point. That is just over 1 inch to about 2 inches. So the bigger the bust, the further away the dart point can be. I'm going to do my dart point 4 centimeters from the bust point. So that circle there is my new dart point. What you do now is you actually draw in your dart, which will be to the same points on the side seam as your original. We're also going to find the new dart shaping for the side seam. To find the shaping on the side for the dart, I'm going to fold the bottom line of the dart to meet the top line. You can see that as I fold the dart out, your pattern becomes 3-dimensional. So that's exactly what we need. You might be able to see that the side seam doesn't match. That's absolutely fine. You can average that line, you can make it a nice smooth line, and you can check it against your back piece. So this is the back piece. You've not altered it or changed it at all. The side seam, however, does need to match when you sew it. So you can put one over the other and you can draw the shaping in like that. One thing to consider as well is, because we've added in 1 inch on the half of this bodice, we've carried that additional fabric all the way through to the waist. So you can consider whether you want this extra measurement in your waist, then you can just leave the pattern as it is. If you want to just have the measurement at the bust and remove it from the waist, you can then take a bit off of the side seam. So this is the point to decide that. If you are leaving the extra measurement in at the waist as well, you can measure it against your back piece and bring the back piece pattern to match where the original front was. If you want to take some out of the front waist, the bit that you've added in, you can lay your back piece over the side seam and just take off a little bit at the side seam. I'll draw it in pencil and then I will redraw it. Your notch position may have moved as well, so mark that in. This is our new side seam. You can also lay your back piece over as if you had opened up your side seam and you're looking at it from the side. What I'm trying to get is the angle of the sewing line together in the right place. And then you can check what angle to do your hem. Okay, so at the side seam, the front and the back continue from each other. So this is pretty much the angle that I want the hem to go at. So because I've added all the way through to the waist, I'm taking a bit off at the side seam. I'm also going to get a tracing wheel and I'm going to trace out the shape underneath where I've folded the start out. So the pattern is once again nice and flat. And that is the shape of your dart. Last thing to do is add this back on. So I'm just going to extend this line so I know where I'm matching that one up with. That is how much we are adding in to the front length to accommodate for the bust. As this is a crossover style, we might need to check the angle on how this is crossing over at the front. If you do have a larger bust, I would be tempted to not take off of the width of the crossover. I'll draw in the sewing line. You can see how they don't flow on from each other. So instead of following this line and making the crossover smaller, in this case, I'm going to go with extending the outside line to make the crossover slightly wider. Okay, so it turns out that I'm adding just over 1/4 inch to only this bottom section here. So again, just marking in my sewing lines. So that is a marking where the tie will go because this is a tie front crossover. Okay, so we know that the back piece fits, and now I just need to cut out my actual pattern. So you now have a pattern which you have done a full bust adjustment on. Your front is changed, but it still matches the back piece. And from here, you would sample the garment and then make any adjustments at that point as well. So I hope that all of that made sense. If you need some more clarification on any of the techniques used in this tutorial, please leave a comment or get in touch with me via my website. So good luck. Bye.